Dr. Briggs, your Dean of Students, and we're going to talk about how to tie a tie. First things first, you always want to make sure you have a tie, not a clip-on, but a tie. Because once you get to a certain age, you need to have a regular tie. Don't do the clip-on right. But what you always want to do is make sure you pop your collar when you are tying your tie. I forgot to do this beforehand. You always make sure your top button is tied. This button before you actually do it. You pop your collar. Then you throw your tie over. The biggest part is always want to make sure that it's even, because when you are wearing a suit, you always want to make sure that the bottom of your tie hits your belt buckle. You don't want to be lower, don't want to be super high. I always want to make sure it kind of hits that belt buckle. So first thing you want to do is kind of make it a little uneven, and then what you're going to do is flip it over, and then flip it through. There's multiple ways of doing it, but this is the way I typically do it if you want to do a single Windsor. So once you flip it through, then you roll it around. Once you roll it around, now you got your knot. The fun part comes in right here. So I usually do it 2 fingers over so that I can pop it through. And then you shove it through the hole. And this is kind of really where the whole process happens. When you are tying it, you want to make sure you get that dimple. So that's where you want to always make sure you kind of have a mirror or a phone that you can kind of look into it to make sure that that's right. So you gotta have that dimple, pinch it a little bit, pull it up, make sure it hits the right spot. You don't want it to be too high or too low. After you got that set up, you lower your collar. So you popped it once, now you lower it down because you want to have your collar popped the whole time. And that's it. You want to make sure that it's looped in back here. You don't want your tie just flying everywhere. You want to make sure you put it in here. Now if there are times where the back of it is broken, then that's when you just shove it in your shirt. But you don't necessarily just have it flapping everywhere. That's kind of how the process goes. So pocket squares, I'm actually, since I'm not wearing a tie, I always like to have my collar stays in, so you know your collars aren't flying everywhere. So you put your collar stays in, put your pins in. And then with that, so like your pocket square, actually my mentor probably about 6 years ago, he actually put me on with a pocket square holder. Because sometimes when you have your pocket square, you put it in your pocket on your jacket, and it just, you know, just falls all down. I'll show you. You try to just put a pocket square in, you don't necessarily know how far it's going to go in. So you try to put this thing there, and it just sits there, right? Now you don't see anything. So you kind of want to show it just a little bit, a little peekaboo. That's if you're doing a presidential square. Now, if you can have some different ways. But what I typically do when I'm doing a pocket square, this is actually a shorter one. Got it square. What you want to do is kind of put it into 3/4 or thirds. So you got that part, and you got that part. Now you got like a little rectangle. And then once you have that, you put it into your pocket square holder. You put in your pocket square holder. This is when you determine how high you want it. And it also depends on how deep your pocket is in your jacket. Once you slide it in, you can leave it right there. You can put it down a little bit further. And now you got this little peekaboo. So that's just one way of doing it. Other way of doing it, and this is what I learned some years ago, real simple. You got this, put it on your hand, pop it through. Now you can do it 2 ways. You could leave it like this and put it in your pocket square. Now you got something a little flashy. You can pop it in that way. So you got something like that. Or, now that you still got it this way, you flip it the other way around. We'll do that again. Kind of like a magic trick, right? Do it the other way. And then you put it into your pocket square. If I can get this thing out, that's always a tricky part about this, is actually getting it out of your pocket. Once you get it out, just pop it in, and then you can determine how you want it, how flashy you want it. If you want it real high up, or if you want it just low and spread out, kind of looks like a rose a little bit. And you pop it in there. You got that. So you can actually do that. Now you're casual, or you can put your tie on and it matches with it. You can do all those different things. That's kind of how you do it. So pocket